stuck between a libertarian and a Republican. Welcome to Publitarian Podcast.
Top of the morning, afternoon, evening to ya. This is Ronald Johnson, Publitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Publitarian Podcast, using my 25% Irish heritage according to Ancestry.com. So therefore I cannot be accused of cultural appropriation, although the Irish people don't really give a shit. Your Tier 1 Humble Podcaster coming at you yet again with another episode. We are episode number 40. And I don't have a title for this one yet, but I'm sure the title will come to me as we progress. So let's get right to it. We have a happy beer fridge today, but I am not partaking in the beer. Since I'm kind of doing an Irish themed thing, I thought it would be more appropriate to have some whiskey. Although this is not Jameson, so I don't know how authentic this really is. Anyway, into what I was going to talk about today. A segment I haven't done in a while, but needs to be done because guess what, guys? I've got some news that matters.
And now, news that matters.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, news that matters. From Newsweek, by Christina Zhao. Elderly Americans are dying without getting to read Mueller's report, and they're not happy about it. It's a sad day in America, folks. We've got people dying, and they're not getting to see what Robert Mueller's report is. What are we going to do? The article goes, as special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation is reportedly coming to an end, elderly and sick Americans are trying to hold on to their lives so they can read the highly anticipated report that has been nearly 2 years in the making. World War II veteran Mitchell Tendler, a man who survived numerous historic milestones, including the Korean War, Vietnam, Watergate, and President Bill Clinton's impeachment, fell sick on December 29th at 93 years old, reported NPR. I got a call at 11 o'clock. My mom said, well, Dad's not feeling well. He really can't stand, Tendler's son Walter recalled. Within a couple of hours, they called 911 and got him into the ER because it wasn't getting any better. Tendler survived 2 implantable defibrillators throughout his life, but while on his third, he started to fade. After he was provided painkillers by the doctors, Tendler voiced his final thoughts. It was just quiet for a little while, Walter Tendler told the news outlet. And then he just sits up in bed halfway and looks at me and goes, shit, I'm not going to see the Mueller report, am I? And that was really the last coherent thing he said. Okay, I'll continue. Richard Armstrong, a 94-year-old currently in hospice care in New Jersey, related to Tendler's sentiments. I know exactly how he feels. I feel the same way. I've been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, Armstrong told NPR. I was hoping to live to see the outcome of what I think it should be. Justice. I'll be surprised and disappointed if it isn't. Listen, Richard, we all feel the same way, except I think that your definition of justice is going to differ from my definition. So anyway, there you have it, folks. News that matters. The article goes on way longer than it needs to. Newsweek and NPR found 2 examples of people that want to see the Mueller report while they're dying, and they have currently painted a picture like America is in uproar and every single senior citizen that has been given a terminal diagnosis wants to know if Donald Trump is going to jail or not. So there you have it, folks. What I really wanted to dig into today was the notion of white privilege. And I'm here to tell you that it really does exist.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
wrong.
There we go. Most of my audience tuned out. Stick with me, guys. White privilege does exist, but I think it exists for one side of the aisle only. And it's not even really white privilege. I would call it Democrat privilege. But it does happen to be, most of the time, white people, white liberals. I have examples. Actually, a very recent example just popped up today in Fox News. From Fox News. This is from 8 hours ago. I recorded this on Tuesday, so don't know when you're listening to it. Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin, among several dozen snared an elite college cheating scheme, authorities say. Actresses Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin were among more than 4 dozen people charged in a nationwide college admissions cheating scandal that involved wealthy individuals purportedly paying up to $6.5 million to place their children into elite universities, say court records released Tuesday. The alleged scam is said to have placed students in top colleges including Yale, Georgetown, Stanford, University of Southern California, UCLA, and the University of Texas. It was run by William Rick Singer of California, who helped parents get their children's college admission through bribes, court documents unsealed, and Boston claimed. Officials have been investigating the case named Operation Varsity Blues. It's a great name, for more than a year. Singer, an admissions consulting company founder, pleaded guilty in Boston federal court Tuesday afternoon to charges including racketeering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. So what's happening? These white liberals are making sure that their kids are getting into college, so they are faking scholarships, they're faking pictures, they're faking... Anyway, from the FBI Boston field office, this guy, Joseph Bonavolanta. Whoa, that's a good one. Joseph Bonavolanta. Bonavolanta. Sound it out, Ronald. There we go. Joseph Bonavolanta said, this is a case where the parents flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense to cheat the system so they could set their children up for success with the best money can buy. So anyway, what was happening? Let's see. Most of the students didn't know their admission was due to a bribe, authorities said, but in some cases, the children and their parents took part in the scheme. Singer would accommodate what parents wanted to do, and it appears that the schools were not involved. So anyway, let's see. They did fake credentials. They would pay a specified amount of money, fully aware it would be used to gain college admission. The money would then go toward an SAT or ACT administrator, or a college athletic coach who would fake a profile for the prospective student, regardless of ability, according to the charging documents. Damn, son. Okay, so I am like Hollywood ignorant at this point. Like, I stopped giving Hollywood my money a long time ago, with the exception if a Star Wars movie comes out. And even now, with that last one, that was such just social justice cuckery, I can't even. So I didn't know who these people are, but the one chick looks like she was Uncle Jesse's wife in Full House. So whichever one of those two chicks. But anyway, it's supposedly a big scandal. And that just dovetails me into the point which I was going to talk about today, being Democrat privilege, or white Democrat privilege. It would seem to me that if you are a Democrat, you are a liberal, you can pretty much say or do whatever you want. And if that is not privilege, then I don't know what is. It seems like people on the right side of the aisle have to like cross their T's, dot their I's, and make sure everything is 100% perfect, no hint or air of any kind of impropriety, while the left side of the aisle can just be anti-Semitic. They can be pedophiles. They can say and do whatever they want to women in Hollywood. And they just seem to get a pass. They can pay money and get their kids into elite universities. They can put on blackface. They can wear KKK robes. They can have people allegedly murdered. They can go to an island where children can perform sex acts on them. They can marry their children and become successful Hollywood directors. And it seems like there's no repercussion. But if a conservative says the C word on a shock jock radio program 10 years ago, that's a problem. So that's just some examples of Democrat privilege. They can literally just get away with whatever they want. And we the people are tired of this two-tier justice system to where a lefty can say and do whatever they want, and we just don't understand context, and we just need to realize where they're coming from and understand their struggles and yada, yada, yada. And if a conservative even, doesn't do the thing they're being accused of and still gets just skewered over it, The shock jock thing that I said a minute ago, I was, of course, referring to the Tucker Carlson hit piece done by Media Matters. Absolutely ridiculous. I am so glad that Tucker stood firm and that Fox News stood firm and just batted it back and said, nope, we're not going to do it. And this is what I've been talking about, too. Other podcasters have been talking about it as well. Now, when we get that stuff thrown at us, we just need to be like, yeah, it's, this isn't the fight. The fight is our ideological warfare. It's not who has the moral high ground. Because I guarantee it, if you want to do tit for tat, the left is not going to have any kind of moral high ground. So we need to stop caring about what the left's going to say about us and start getting our ideologies out there and start making a difference and start saving this country. Because that's kind of the place we're in now at this point. So while liberal privilege abounds and there's this false assumption of white privilege, there's also at the same time this demonization, this attack on white people, to where white people have become the great Satan, the group of people that are responsible for everything that's wrong in the world. I saw an article in National Geographic talking about the migration in Europe, and I'm not going to go through the whole article. It's just a bunch of liberal cuckery, but basically they were saying in very eloquent liberal words that the white Europeans just need to get over it, and the migration is going to happen. It would be better if we all melted together anyway. And I've seen posts like that on social media too, to where I'll see African American women say, yeah, I'm going to marry this white guy and have some brown children. And yeah, we're going to take care of this race problem right now. Like, racism is just inherently a white people problem. And don't misunderstand, I'm not going to go on some kind of like right-wing paleo-conservative rant about the races and the difference of the races and whatnot. I believe what Martin Luther King Jr. said about judging someone by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And very ironic that that's not what happens anymore. And the color of the skin, a lot of times white skin, gets judged. So anyway, the National Geographic article was basically saying, yeah, you just have to get over it, and we're all just going to become one big melting pot. And here's the problem I have with the melting pot theory. The problem I have with the melting pot theory is the same problem I have when I've addressed countless times in other podcasts, pure libertarianism or socialism. We are all still human beings at the end of the day. And that's what everybody seems to forget. They always forget to put the human factor in with their pure utopian ideologies. So what's the problem with making everybody the same skin color? Let's just keep, intermarrying until there's no more white people, there's no more black people, there's no more Hispanic people, there's no more Asian people. We're just kind of like this massive melded race. So like, what's wrong with that? That sounds virtuous, right? Because then no one can get mad at each other about their skin color. I would hearken you back to an example of a Dr. Seuss book about the star-bellied Steeches. And some Steeches had stars on their bellies, and some Steeches did not. And if you remember the story, they tried to fix the problem by every Steech getting a star on their belly. And then what happened? All of the Steeches had stars on their bellies, and then some Steeches decided they wanted to stand out and put 2 stars on their belly, and so on and so forth. The reason I bring that example up, it was a very good illustration of the human factor and our human natures. The Bible says the heart is wicked and in it dwells no good thing. It's because we are always going to find something to be envious about. We will find something in someone else that we will either covet or envy or not like the other person over. It's just human nature. And that's what all of these utopian societies never take into account. We could all meld together and become one, caramel colored people. And we will still find something to get angry at each other about. Even look at different religions of the world. You have your Protestants that break off from Catholicism. And then you have a different sects of Catholics. Then you have a bunch of different sects of Protestants. Everybody thinking their way is the right way, and sometimes even adversarial to each other. It's just in our human nature to do it. And that's the problem I have with this, is they keep taking the human factor out. It's the same thing with socialism. They always want to remove, they never take into account the human factor, that someone still is going to be on the top making decisions, and someone is still going to be given power over someone else to make decisions. And that's where it all falls apart, because the human factor will still be there. And ironically, the best shot of fixing a lot of this would be free market capitalism. I know, I went from a commentary on race to economics, but here we are. And it's the one thing that people fight against the most in ideology, is this idea of free market capitalism, that you can do what you want with your money and are free to spend it however and use it however. Even if we try to be equal, people will still find a reason to be greedy or covetous or unequal. And that's just the truth of the matter. It's like what's going on in South Africa, like the genocide that's happening in South Africa that no one's talking about. The white farmers are just having their land taken away from them. They're being killed. And everybody's just like, oh, okay. And the people on the other side, the black people there, just think that the land is owed to them somehow. And reaching back hundreds of years, kind of like some of the African Americans in our culture do, like reaching back years and years and years to something that no one was a part of and something that has been so separated from them. And I just think it's sad. I think it's sad that a lot of, well, even, white European people are made to feel guilty for something that they've never been a part of. White Americans are being made to feel guilty of something they've never been a part of. So there is a privilege that exists, but it's not a white privilege. Unless you're a Democrat, unless you're a liberal, then there is a white privilege. Other than that, it's definitely a Democrat privilege. You can talk shit about the president on Twitter. You can make violent threats. You can say whatever you want. Twitter will always back up the other party and say, oh, well, it's about context. It's about violating the terms of service. Amazing how that never happens to the other side of the aisle. So remember, there is a privilege that exists. It can be a white privilege, but it's only a white privilege if you're a liberal. The only good news I'm seeing about it is that there's starting to be a lot of liberal cannibalism that is happening, which I always delight in, because our side of the aisle, because we are so free thinking, we can never get on board with each other for anything, it seems. So that's one bright spot. You've got Ilhan Omar calling out Obama for using drones to kill people. You've got the young freshman liberals fighting against Speaker Pelosi. You've got Speaker Pelosi trying to wrangle the toddlers that are now newly elected and get them settled down, because their end goal is more power, but they can't say that their end goal is more power, and that's what's happening now with the freshman congresswomen and men. Anyway, that part is pretty entertaining. But anyway, my final thought for the day is there is privilege that exists, but it's liberal privilege. It's Democrat privilege. We should start a hashtag Democrat privilege or hashtag liberal privilege. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fun and safe St. Patty's weekend. I'm going to go drink some green beer somewhere. And until then, I will talk to you next time on Publitarian Podcast. As always, if you want to reach out to me, I'm publitarian@gmail.com or thepublitarian@gmail.com, or feel free to DM me on Instagram as well. Thanks for listening.
listening to Publitarian Podcast. Copyright 2019.